Hello everybody and welcome back to an art video today. We're going to paint together a little sketch I've done quite recently. It's a lovely view of Kilkenny here in Ireland, and I really hope you enjoyed this different video. I haven't recorded a painting and art video in so long, so I'm a bit rusty. You will excuse, I hope. If you enjoyed this video, please consider to subscribe, and yeah, let me turn the camera and I will be you in a second. So in terms of materials that we need, it's very simple. It's your drawing here, and you will be able to find the links to the original image in the description below. I am going to need a palette of watercolor, and I'm going to walk you through what colors we use in almost every single step, if I'm able to, of the drawing. And a few brushes. I got here all round brushes in 3 different sizes. We got a larger mop brush here, then for your own information is a number 3 from this brand that I can't recall which brand it is, but it's an inexpensive mop brush. And the 2 Raphael brushes, number 12 and number 6. These are as well quite inexpensive and they work really well. They are all synthetic fibers. For some reason, I kind of don't like to use natural fibers. I think they are, first of all, quite expensive, and then, you know, you need to be a little bit more conscious about choices, I would say. And lastly, just a bit of tissue paper, of course, some water as well. I have this jug here that I'm gonna put right here. So hopefully you can get a view of the mixing of the color as well as the amount of water that I need at any time. I'm gonna flash the image that I've been using now just for your own reference, but of course you will be finding the actual reference image in the description below. This is a view of Kilkenny, which is a gorgeous little town here in Ireland, and I've done the painting stage last weekend, the drawing stage last weekend, and it was actually really inspiring. As you can see, a couple of things before starting the drawing side. I only have used some pencil and some waterproof ink. I am not going to erase the pencil mark. I think that will give my painting a little bit of more, I don't know, granularity, if you wish. Makes it a bit more realistic and unintentional, which is exactly what I want to achieve with this painting. The second thing I want to focus your attention on is my palette. It's a really dirty, and that is something I always suggest my students to do, to keep your palette quite dirty. Even if you use only a couple of colors. You can see here I almost use only blues and dark yellows in my palette. Even if you use only those colors, keep it dirty. That will keep your paintings having some consistency all throughout. Both because the color is mixing and because as well you have a muscle memory, more or less, of the colors that you use. We'll see afterwards. We are going to use a little bit of a white Posca pen here. This is one with a very fine point that I'm using to get some highlights in, but I'm not sure about this yet. So let's get started. I'm gonna use a lot of water, but by any means I am doing a wet on wet technique. And the first thing that I use is some sort of ultramarine blue here. And I just want to get an idea where the shadows are. So I'm seeing here under this arch we have a bit of a shadow. And for now I am just going quite liberal with my water and as well quite light with my shadows. I don't want to get too cut into the shadow right now. This will become more apparent as we go on with the painting. And of course I'm using my larger mop brush. Then the second shadow that I'm seeing is a kind of an oblique shadow coming from inside of my negative space here, which is where the doors of this building are. And this shadow kind of reflects as well down here where my main bottom piece is, or the floor, as is probably better to call. And this is consistent almost everywhere. This vertical kind of shadow and oblique on the street. Here we go. And same down here. So the shadow comes down and it's oblique. Oblique meaning, you see here, it's a little oblique type of shadow. Now I am going to probably need more color as we go, but for now I'm quite happy with that. Now this window here is a bit of a artistic license. There's probably a window there, but as some foliage I haven't seen that, so I'm gonna treat it as the same as any of the other apertures. So keeping down the shadows and going oblique. And as you can see, this paper is a bit unfortunate because it dries up really fast. Otherwise, I do like to keep my paper a bit more wet, but again, by any means, I'm using a wet on wet technique. Then, what do we have here? We have this griddle here, which again is a bit of an artistic license, but I'm gonna treat it as my other shadowy indoors part. Alright. Then of course we have the inner side of this big large window. I've always had difficulties in painting inside windows. I've never really found any kind of way to paint them. For the longest amount of time I used like a neutral tint or some very dark blue or sometimes black as well, but it's never been really something that I found successful. But anyway, sorry, before this dries up, I'm seeing the window, there are some white reflections, so I'm going just to give an accent there of this white reflection. Now on this other side here, we really don't have many shadows. The bigger one are the underneath of the street, the facing of my shops. So I'm just gonna put a little shadow on the underneath here. This is a big one, which goes in shadow as well. And painting the shadows first will really help me to get more clear than when everything else goes. If you see here, I have the same type of situation with the oblique shadow, then it goes down, and I'm painting the inside of this building completely in the dark. Although I'm seeing the picture, it's lit up by some, what you call it, some light, some bulbs, some artificial light, but I don't want that, so it's gonna be this type of thing. And we get, let me move up this one a little bit, we get this corner here, and as well this sign is really black, so this is treated as it was in the shadows, although it's not. Ideally, and I'm saying ideally here, you would have had a plan to understand where your shadows are, where the light is coming from, and so on and so forth. I just wanted to paint a little bit after a long day in work, so I haven't done any planning at all. And as I go, you see, I notice new stuff that need my attention, my shadowy attention, so I'm adding as I go. Now we have a bit of this lamp being very black, so I'm just going to block it out, just the tiniest little bit. And as well adding what I can add over here. We have this sign, which is very, very light, and the inner part of this window, which is actually yellow, but I'm just going to suggest that. This is the first little piece of my painting. I'm not going to let it dry almost at all. Now, with a combination of this nice warm brown, it's a burnt sienna. You can use really any warm brown that you have. I will start working on the masonry, it's called, which are like the what you call it, the stonework, basically. So here I'm not gonna pay any attention at all where I go. I usually never really draw the masonry, or never really draw stones, to be honest. But in this case, for some sort of reason, I decided to go in and draw the stones, which is quite curious. And I'm just going to give an accent, washing my brush, and then with this orange that I have here, this is a Scarlet Orange from Winsor & Newton, if I'm right. I'm just going to splatter some color here, there, again without paying too much attention to where I am, but just filling in some of the gaps. Washing again, because it's so vibrant, this color just gets everywhere. But I like to have some color mixed, so the brownish color and the orange, and some splashes of pure orange as well. This gives a little bit of a different contrast. When I'm happy with that, some of this mustardy color, which name now is disappearing from my mind. This is ochre, yellow ochre. Right, and we go with some more stones. As I treated the stone, you can see I'm not paying attention to the lines or where I am at, and B, just mooching around, just trying to get the feeling of this part of the wall. leaving a lot of white spaces and as well a lot of colors. If I start painting every single stone by its true color, this project will take me, I don't know, a month. But with this system of just suggesting the colors as I go, it's A, much easier, and B, gives more space for the imagination, and everything seems a bit more natural, if you wish. Which is something that I'm very eager to achieve. Because, you know, the point of my paintings, my watercolor, is not to sell watercolor paintings or to create some, I don't know, beautiful painting that will hang in a living room for the foreseeable. I really doubt that anybody would actually hang one of my watercolor paintings in their living rooms. But it's just for me to collect memories. And when I'm around for holidays, for example, I always, without fail, bring in some watercolors, a sketchbook, or if I'm lucky, some loose paper, and I'm always sketching where I am. I find that my sketches are sometimes better for my own recollection, for the memories that I want to build, much better than really taking a picture with your phone or with your camera. I lately never bring a camera with me at all, so I think it's a very nice way to keep memories and to make all of this a little bit more fun. Here we go. We have our first wall done. Now, I've used three colors here. This brown, burnt sienna, blue, and this orange that I have mixed before, plus a tiny bit of yellow ochre. And so far, I'm happy with how it works here. More work has to be done on the under part of the arch and as well on the stones, perhaps. Of course, the lamps will come later. But I would move on and go on the other part of the painting. As you can see from the reference picture, this left-hand side of the painting is much darker. So from that bright and warm burnt sienna, I am using now some sepia. And if you see my palette, I have actually two sepias here. One is darker and colder, and one is a bit more warm. So I'm just combining them together. And I will use them in combination with my ultramarine blue and probably the same orange to give this wall the same treatment that I gave to the middle one. So once again, I have all my stonework drawn here, and I'm going just randomly to cover large spaces of the drawing without really focusing much on which stone I'm painting with which color. But in this case, probably I will pay a bit more attention to the shape of the stones because they are so large. And after that, I'm going in with some orange mix. Orange is a color that I really never used in my painting, and I discovered this bright orange watching a video of Ian Farrelly, I'm sure you know him. He's amazing as a watercolor artist from the UK, and he uses this bright transparent orange. I think he uses. I'm using just bright orange, but he uses this orange to give his painting some great depth and I had difficulty in finding orange watercolor paint in my local watercolor shop, art shop. But eventually I found one, and since then it's been a great discovery because it's such an odd color that makes you really understand a bit what you're painting. Does it make any sense at all? Like, for example, here I had too much of the yellowish ochre, so I dubbed the color out with my tissue, just a tiny little bit to get rid of it. I want some uniformity in the colors as well. And slowly, I am almost covering the entire wall. As I said, it's much darker and much more in shadow than the other walls, so I need to get more pigment there, of course. And you just heard my phone vibrating, which might be my sister calling. Anyway, let's go on with this. I have almost finished with the stonework here. It's a bit messy, but it will come together once the paint dries a bit. Next step is going to be the outer part of the arch, and it's almost all completely white. So still with my bigger brush, a lot of water, a bit of the ochre. I'm just going to suggest colors without really paying a lot of attention. Now I'm touching my brush. This is the ochre. Well, I'm touching my brush towards the orange so that I have a tiny bit of orange in that one. And I just want to suggest part. Now, as you can see here, is a bit dark for my taste, so I'm removing color, and just with a wet brush I'm amalgamating all the colors together. Tiny bit of blue, and that's what I want for now. The rule of thumb that you can use here is darker towards you and lighter further from you, so you can really create some beautiful things and some depth of perspective. And don't be afraid to use your paper towel when you need to. Now, a suggestion with some bluish gray, which is made just with my burnt umber and the blue that I was using, and I was using ultramarine blue. Just a suggestion on the stairs. Once again, removing the inner part. I just want the shadow to stick, nothing else. Good. So as you can see, I'm working on the same painting without waiting any time for the painting to dry at all. And I want to go on to this two shop or pub windows. And I'm adding to my ultramarine blue some gorgeous turquoise. This is just a beautiful and super expensive paint. It's a cerulean blue by Winsor and Newton, and because I'm a skimp artist, I couldn't afford to get the actual artist quality paint, so I bought for myself the student range, which works fine. It's just a bit diluted, and I'm just filling in the window here, the window frame, because it's actually this color, so I'm not afraid of going in with that. It might be a disaster, but we'll see what happens
later on. Once again, with just the rule that I said, I told you a second ago, darker as you come towards you and lighter when you go further. So here we go. And as you can see here, I'm basically not respecting my own rules, painting lighter towards me, but we're gonna make do, as they say. All right. I'm seeing here I missed a couple of stones, thinking that it was part of the framing, but it's such a messy process that I don't really care. I'm just gonna add them now, and it works as fine. I actually am going to take the hint here and put some green. This is my most favorite green. It's sap green, and it is the most natural looking ready-made green, if I can say that. I'm just dabbing it just a tiny bit. I don't know if the windows there are covered in moss or if it's actually like some flower-ish type of thing, but that's what I'm doing there. And finally, we'll tackle this big stone here. Now, I am actually thinking of leaving that white. I always like in my paintings to leave some negative space. So that is probably what I'm going to do, to keep this part white and probably a piece or two on the top here. We'll see. Anyway, I have some brown and some of my green, and I'm going to start working down here to collect some of the stones and the pavement type of work, but not that much. Here as well, I probably will leave a lot of the negative space that I was just talking about. And when I talk about negative space, I talk about white space, basically. Negative in sense of white. Right. Okay. I think we are almost done on this part for the first kind of step-ish. And we can focus on the other wall. Once again, this may be a little boring, but it's the same type of idea. It's much darker on this side, on the side walls, that it is on the front wall. But this wall, as you see, I haven't given any stone treatment, or just a teeny tiny bit over here. So I'm very tempted of leaving this as plain as humanly possible. So just with a muddy blue and green, I'm just gonna fill it in. And I'm leaving these two stones white. Right. Now, this part is the same type of brownish color, but I'm not gonna paint that at all. Rather, I am bringing all the colors towards the inside from the bottom to create this shadow once more. And I'm using my blue, my brown, and my green. As you can see, all of it is a big game of kind of reusing your own colors without being scared of what you're doing, to be honest. And on this side we have some more of this blue, which is not really working too well, so never mind that. I'm gonna wipe it off, dabbing my my tissue, I'm just adding a bit of this brown color. That's plenty. Where I was crazy enough to suggest these tones, I'm putting a blob of orange. And the blob of orange goes as well down here to recall kind of the stone situation, but not, I don't really want to paint them. And as the surface is wet, I probably can say I'm using some sort of wet on wet technique. So this is a water spout that I'm going to put in darker brown. Now, what else we can tackle while we are still drawing? This part here, maybe with some neutral tint perhaps. This is just a sign that I decided was there, but it's not really. So just a tiny little bit there. And then we can, when we are a bit drier with this neutral tint, we can start working on the shadows a little bit more clever or better. So the shadow here, if you see, is encompassing the full length of my wall. So I'm going to fill it in, and magically it comes together. And as well, all the other, of course, the shadows are not blue. So the thing that you want to do here is now creating the proper color or proportion that a shadow is due. And I found that neutral tint is actually a very good versatile color for this type of things. And I'm going to put quite a bit over here where it's more of a darkish color, and washing down my brush almost to the brim, just the tiniest amount of shadows here, and then recapturing or recollecting a lot of paint just for the inside of my buildings, the openings. Probably need to get some more of this neutral tint very soon if I'm planning to travel with this watercolor palette, because I have none left, or a very small amount, and I use this a lot. My shadows go on the way down now. They are much bolder and much bigger, and this because it's been kind of, I'm trying now to figure what's actually there rather than just have the smidge bare minimum of the idea of what's there. So I'm trying to create a bit of a illusion that I'm painting what's on the page, what's on the reference picture, rather than everything and anything. And I am going to leave white that spout, the water spout, because I don't want anything there, and I want the negative space to come about. Now perhaps I'm changing brush, and I will use a finer one. This is the number 12. I don't know if I will ever use the stingy finest one. Now some brown and some of the neutral tint will give me black basically, and I will just suggest the blackness on the lumps just a tiny bit, and as well on this rod here. This probably needs a lot of blue to get through. I'm working with blue and neutral tint, or blue and what's the name, and brown. You will get all the shades of beautiful gray that you want, and you won't need to buy any gray anymore. Actually, I'm trying to color the inside here, but you know what? I'm doing the whole lot like this. And that's almost what I wanted. Maybe with just some water diluting my paint, I'm just going to soften the edges just a tiny bit and maybe find them back with the paper. Okay, right. Now it's just a matter of working along, you know, what you like, what you don't like. You have almost decided everything on this painting already, so there's nothing much that you can do apart from adding and subtracting from what is already there. Like, a thing that is bothering me is this blue square that I am going to make very, very dark because it's actually black on the picture. So here we go, all dark. Now I need to control to take a look at the picture and see if we have any shadow from that sign, but we do not. The only thing that we do is a bit of a light shining on the top here, which I'm actually liking very much, so I'm going to recreate that. Now it's the time to introduce our bright yellow. This is yellow Sophie from Sennelier, which I am mixing with the ochre that I had there, some of the orange if it happens. I'm going just to dab a little where the surface is still wet to create a bit of a idea of this yellow lighting coming through. And as well, it was where down here and here. Not too much, just a touch. And then we have the yellow light coming through here as well, and on the top of here. Same again, just a touch. I don't want to suggest that there is a light there by any stretch of the imagination. That is just a bit of a indulgence touch. Then we have the same yellow situation coming here. Alright, so I will keep working on a little bit until I'm happy with this, and then we can reconvene for the later stage. Alright, so we are done with the painting stage, and I recognize it's getting quite late and the light may abandon us very soon. So let's go on with the final touches. What I like to do is using this Micron Sakura pen. Is it Sakura? Yeah, it's Sakura. With like a rollerball type of point. And I like just to refine a teeny tiny bit some spots of the painting to attract more the attention, like the windows, for example, some of the stones, and so on. So let me put down the camera for you and I'll show you what I mean. Here we go. The angle is a bit unfortunate, but I hope you can see what I mean by refining the painting. So one thing that I like to do is probably part of my kind of style more than anything, is just to fill in some of the stones with squiggly lines and just to give them a tiny bit of depth. I don't know if I saw someone doing this or if it just came out of my own type of artistic license, but I don't know. Something else is, for example, here we have the luck of having some drops of paint, so I just like to trace the border of this stain, and once again filling in with some of these squiggly lines just to suggest something that I'm not quite sure what it is, but you know what I mean. And then when I have sort of a smooth edge, just to go back into that a little bit to make it more bold. And as you can see, I work a lot with my inks to get a lot of bold lines, especially on the hard corners and surfaces. Like here, I forgot to add a line, of course, which is in now. Okay, that's almost done. I'm gonna let the window dry a little bit and focus on this part of the painting. And as you could see, I already traced some of my main cobblestones, stones. So I'm not going to refine them or to trace more of them, but where I was a bit more intentional with my watercolor, I just gave space to some of new stones, which I'm just tracing quite loosely now with my pen. And it's always a very good technique to trace down afterwards, to take advantage, I would say, of your watercolor marks. That is a brilliant idea, I think. Okay, let's go back on the window. The window have little inside pockets. I'm not going to even try and recreate all of them, but just give a few an idea of existence. Just a few of them. And perhaps retrace the hard border of the window frame a little bit. I'm not even sure I'm going to use the white paint. Yeah, maybe just a tiny touch. This is something I absolutely despise, but it works quite well sometimes. And sometimes it doesn't at all. Okay. Then I wanna get some light here, so just a touch and a point of shininess on the black of my lights. I think we are done with this. Is there anything else I would like to add? You see, the danger of this white Posca pen is then you do tend to add Posca marks literally everywhere, because kind of looks good, but at the same time it's distracting and creating more overwork, if I can say. So I'm not going to add more of them, maybe a couple more stones just to fill it in a bit. But I think I think we're done. And sometimes as well, you need to be able to stop yourself from overworking and adding too much noise to your painting, you know. Sometimes it's very, very tempting to just go in and work and work and work everything multiple times just to add more. You know, you're carried away with what you're doing, and it's a kind of mindless work, especially if it's not your prime work and it's just something that you do for fun, and you're having so much fun that you wouldn't stop. Like I'm unfortunately, very unfortunately, doing here. Okay, I'm done. That's it. I'm not touching anymore. Here we go. You have it all. Let me turn the camera and I'll say goodbye to you.
Alright, so here we go with the finished work. It's quite nice actually. I wasn't really expecting this. I'm very happy to be able to record another little video for you guys. I know that this channel is being a little bit overthrown by my crafty adventures, but yeah, I was thinking of creating a sub-channel. I used to have one before where I talk just about painting and art, but it's being a lot of work to manage two accounts, so I removed it. But yeah, what do you think is best? Would you like to have an art only account? And if so, I'll be collecting your feedback and try to make it. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed painting with me this little watercolor, and if you have any questions about techniques, materials, please feel free to comment below, send me a message on Instagram, and I will see you very soon. Bye bye.